So, for those of you who do not know, Eden Knight was a trans lady who was prominent in the online trans community, to say the least. And yesterday, she posted uh, on her Twitter page, final message, read, and linked to this twit longer. Okay? And again, trigger warning, this does deal with suicide. But we're gonna go into this because it gets progressively more fucked up the deeper you get into it, and this lady deserved so much better. Hi. If you're reading this, I've already killed myself. I've given life every opportunity. I've given myself every chance to get better, but I couldn't do it. I wasn't strong enough. I don't think there's a universe where I was ever strong enough to survive this. Why? Sometime in the summer, I was contacted by Michael Pocalico, a cybersecurity guy, through an IRL friend who claimed he was a fixer and wanted to fix the issue that was between me and my parents. I thought this was impossible. I'm transgender, and they are strict conservative Muslims. But I decided I would give it a shot because it can't hurt, right? Lamau? Over the next couple of months, I had called Michael Pocalico, I can't say his name right, I apologize, and his associate Ellen. These calls seemed innocuous and honestly pretty helpful. It was mainly questions about my safety and whether I had my needs met at the place I was staying. Towards the end of my stay at my friend's place, I had witnessed a traumatic event and was already in a bad place mentally. Michael took note of this and decided to push me to leave Georgia and move back to Virginia. Michael and Ellen, along with a Saudi lawyer named Bader, met me at the train station. I was taken to a hotel and allowed to experience Washington, D.C. I genuinely was optimistic and believed this could work. God, I wish I wasn't so fucking stupid. At this point, the only person in that group that I was in contact with was Bader, the Saudi lawyer. Bader, throughout this entire time, in his weird way. Did I skip a paragraph? Nope. Okay. Yeah. In his weird way, tried to get me to detransition. First, he pampered me. He got me an apartment temporarily. He took me out to eat. He took me to therapists. But over time, the more conversations I had with him in person, the more I realized what he was trying to do. He tried to get me to be normal, gave me examples of feminine men, and said that they are transgender, but they are hiding it. That it's better to hide it. Told me stories personally about people he knew that successfully hid it. Repeated constantly that I can just hold two lives, the female me and the male me. Constantly said that I looked like a man, always talked down on my appearance, bought me masculine clothing and tried to throw away all of my feminine clothing. At every step of the way, he tried to detransition me. I had a breakdown over this and bombarded Michael Pocalico and Ellen with texts about what was happening. They did not respond. I did not realize fast enough what was happening because I was fucking stupid. And I would respond that no, Eden was not fucking stupid. Just when we're in these situations, trans people, we tend to latch on to anything that might be helpful in order to survive, and that's not, it's not being fucking stupid. That's being desperate and isolated. At a certain point, I realized I was entirely dependent on Bader for food and shelter, and that if I ran away, he could easily find my location, and, since I was illegal, I would have just been deported to Saudi Arabia. I subconsciously gave up. I was too tired. I did everything he asked. I cut my hair. I stopped taking estrogen. I changed my wardrobe. I met my dad. And then I had another breakdown. My mom kept telling me to repent or I was going to hell, and I did. I repented. I believed I was going to hell so much that I read the entire Quran front to back in a couple of days, crying the entire fucking time about what a disgusting thing I am, and I didn't sleep. I repented and I was broken. Badr then booked a flight back to Saudi Arabia and I came back. And I'm not gonna lie, folks. Um, I've had an experience similar to that, like reading the entire Bible front to back, crying the entire time about how disgusting I am. I've had that experience. I think that part of the reason you might see a lot of trans people um, really struggling with this story is that there are a lot of aspects to this that are very, very, very familiar to a lot of trans people. The first month was fine. Okay, even. I was on edge the entire time, but I was treated like I was going to run away any second by my family. Then came the second month. At this point, I was subjected to daily searches of my belongings. My mom searched all of my electronics whenever she got the chance. I was berated for being a freak when my mom found out my private photos. My dad called me a failure and an abomination. I was told that Michael, Ellen, and Badr were actually all specifically hired to get me back, and there was no escape from my situation. I was destroyed, but I wanted to keep going. After the first, what are we reading? This is Eden Knight's suicide note. After the first time they found my HRT, it was traumatizing, but I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to live if I couldn't transition. Then the second time came. After that, I took a month break off of HRT and got back on it. They have found my HRT again, and I'm done fighting. I wasn't always a good or even decent person. At times, I was a fucking asshole and a disgusting human being, but there were times I felt like I was good. Don't understand why I was given this life with these circumstances. Every day hurts. Every second stings. I've tried killing myself in the past, but every single time I was still holding on by a thread somewhere deep inside me. I think that's why I survived them. This time, I'm done. I'm tired. Message to the people I love. To my friends, to the people I chose to be my family, to my girlfriend, to everyone who has shown me kindness in this life, I sincerely thank you. You made an unbearable existence bearable at times. I'm deeply sorry I've disappointed you all. I wish things were different. I wish this message was a message about how I won, how I escaped and built a successful life, how I managed to get FFS, SRS, and beat my dysphoria. I wish I was speaking to you about how proud I am of myself to have done the impossible. That's not my reality. I wish this world wasn't so fucking comically cruel. Actually laughing writing this sentence. It's unironically ridiculous how bad my luck has been the past couple of weeks. Someone just walked past my car and glanced at me. I wonder if they know I'm gonna kill myself. Wonder what they would think about me if they knew who I actually was. I wanted to be a leader for people like me, but that wasn't written to happen. Hope the world gets better for us. I hope our people get old. Hope we get to see our kids grow up to fight for us. I hope for trans rights worldwide. Goodbye. I mean, chat, there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm in my 30s right now, and I'm considered like an elder trans. And that's it. That's why. I'm 31 years old and I'm like older than like 90% of trans people. And fuck, it hurts. I hope our people get old. Um, Merrick and a bunch of other people compiled a very informative article here for people to reference with the help of several other people like Amazing Atheist, Sockdon Left, Euphoria Tori, etc. Um, and I mean, we'll go through it here. Um, but it's so fucking infuriating. It's so fucking infuriating for so many reasons, and one of the biggest reasons is this is exactly what conservatives want to do to trans people all the time. This isn't like some fluke of like the system. This is just what conservatives want to do. And it has now been confirmed by Eden's family that she has passed away. She was successful, and it's heartbreaking, and it makes me so goddamn mad. It makes me so goddamn mad. And conservatives want to kill us, and they want to kill us indirectly because they are cowards. They are cowards who cannot reckon with the actual outcomes of their hatred and their bigotry, and they would much rather have others do it for them. And that's what they did to Eden. They tortured her until she couldn't take it anymore. They didn't even the family made an announcement about her death and dead named her and misgendered her throughout the entire thing. Their child took their own life, and they don't even take that as a wake-up call. And every single time I see a conservative online who's like, oh, but think of the children, think of the children. Or like that guy who was in my chat the other day talking about how, well, actually, detransitioners are the main victims of the transgender ideology. And I beg to differ. 99.5% of people who transition want to and need to transition. That is one of the most successful rates of like surgical or medical intervention. But that the reality is that you're right, Odidums. They would gladly kill 99.5% of trans people to save the 0.5% detransitioners. They would kill every single trans person to save one cis person from the fate of like regretting their transition. It's not about saving people. It's not. All it's about is killing us. That is their ultimate goal, and that is why this anti-trans rhetoric dovetails so nicely with the rhetoric of fascists. It's why their genocidal rhetoric is married heart and soul to the rhetoric of fascism. It's why TERFs so readily incorporate elements of fascism into their demonstrations. It's why you'll see neo-Nazis marching alongside concerned lesbians from the TERF movement, you know? It is about hatred, and it is about killing us, And I don't know how to make that clearer to people. I don't know. I hope that maybe Eden's story will help other people to understand exactly what conservatism is and what conservatism seeks to do to transgender people, because literally every single person in this story is connected to the conservative movement in some way, shape, or form. And that's what we get to here with the document that was compiled by Merrick. Polly talks a lot about how there's a genocide in progress. Well, Polly and I might not be allies anymore since she burned the bridge with me, but you know, I do agree with her on that. I do. But the genocide and the genocidal rhetoric have been present for a long time. There's a petition here in Canada to do with trans seeking asylum if being persecuted by their country. I thought that Canada already had LGBT asylum laws in place. When I was looking into that, it seemed to be the case. And yeah, no, the legislative ramp up is what has been the most concerning, because the genocidal rhetoric has been there, but Republican politicians haven't latched onto it until very recently. And I don't know that I know that there have been reports about the you know, most Republicans are in favor of like transgender protections as well, but like the constant barrage of anti-trans rhetoric is turning more and more Republicans against trans people. It's also doing doing the dirty work of frankly fascist consolidation. Often what you will see in fascist movements is at first a very broad tent, and then the tent becomes smaller and smaller as the fascists consolidate their power within a party. And at a certain point, it doesn't matter what most people in the party want if the entire party is being controlled by fascists. But we're going to go through this document compiled by American Co. Um, so this has the most up-to-date information that I am aware of, and we'll take a look at it. Okay. To whom it may concern, journalists, activists, friends, trans allies, and onlookers, hello. We are friends of Eden Knight, who was a trans woman from Saudi Arabia living in America. She was tricked by financial support from fixers, allegedly hired by her parents, into moving back to Saudi Arabia and detransitioning. Eden was funny, sharp, well-read, and concerned with making the world a better place. She stood up for marginalized people and regularly critiqued the conservative, suffocating culture she had left back home. On the morning of March 12th, 2023, Eden posted her suicide note on Twitter. In it, Eden laid out how she was manipulated into depending on people hired by her powerful parents to pose as friends, but whose actual goal was to force her to detransition and move back to Saudi Arabia. They succeeded. This morning of Monday, March 13th, 2023, Eden's family confirmed both her passing in Saudi Arabia and their identity. We are greatly disturbed by how she was treated. We believe that what has happened to her is an unspeakable violation and there must be consequences. Justice must be served. In this document, we have laid out some of the pieces of evidence that we believe tell Eden's story and expose the ways she was failed and violated by her parents, by powerful American citizens willing to do anything for money, by a Saudi government official who posed as a friend, and by the U.S. justice and immigration systems that should have been there to offer her asylum and safety. She deserved better in life, and she deserves better in death. With love and care, Friends of Eden. Some information about Eden. Eden was known as Solaria, or Cyber Angel Fairy. Eden started her journey on Twitter, still living in the closet and hanging out with progressives and people who want to build a brighter, better world. Eden lived in the US while she was attending school. During the global COVID pandemic, she came out as trans. Since then, she has been a light in the trans community. Everyone who speaks about her mentions her humor and her kindness. She possessed an inner strength that we admire and know deserves recognition. Archived documents. There's another document from a former roommate of Eden's named Bailey. Bailey writes of Michael Pocolyko and Ellen Cole. She got into contact with Pocolyko and Cole through a real-life friend, claiming that they could help her with the situation and possibly even achieve immigration status. One thing that I did find a bit strange, however, was how I repeatedly asked Eden to ask them if I could also be in contact with them, so that we were all on the same page as far as the plans went moving forward. This was very important to me, as I wanted to make sure we clearly had a timeline of events and how things were going to work out, what the options really were, how we would achieve them, if there's anything that my family could also be doing to help. Although she did ask for my involvement, they outright refused to allow me to be involved. So, yeah, another piece of this story is that Michael Pocolyko and Ellen Cole, his associate, dangled above her head the ability to achieve U.S. citizenship, or U.S. Residency, a legal way for her to remain in the United States, which is why she went with them to Washington, D.C. in the first place. And yes, it is worth noting that both Pocolyko and Cole are members of the Heritage Foundation. They are endorsed activist members of the Heritage Foundation. And we'll get to that in a bit, okay? Fahad al-Shathri, her father, we had a long summary, we had a long description here about the evidence we found that we wouldn't publish publicly, but would share with journalists, that Dr. Fahad al-Shathri, deputy governor for supervision at the Saudi Central Bank, SAMA, was her father. However, that's no longer necessary, as her father announced online today about her passing and a service to honor her. It dead names and misgenders her, something we believe to be a callous, continued violation. It's this absolute ghoul. And the family announced, go to the mercy of God Almighty, young man, Eden Knight. Prayers will be held for him, God willing, today, Monday, after the Asr prayer in Al-Jawahara Al-Babtain Mosque, and the burial will be in the North Cemetery. Condolences for the men are in Hitton neighborhood from after the Asr prayer until the Isha call. Women in the mosque only. Even in death, they didn't give her dignity. Even in death, they didn't give her respect or understand her or listen to her. And that is indicative of the callous hatred and evil that is currently at work within the hearts of every fundamentalist religious person, both in Saudi Arabia and in America. And I don't know, this hits real hard, folks. It hits real hard. Especially, like, for trans folks who have also struggled with their family doing this exact shit. But now we get to Michael Pocolyko. And also, just keep in mind, folks, Literally, the Shathri family is one of the most influential in Saudi Arabia, with connections all the way up to Mohammed bin Salman himself, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Or is he a king now? Is he a king? No, he's still a prince. Still a prince. But now we get to Michael Pocolyko, who, in my view, should be held uh, in great contempt and should be considered one of the people possibly most responsible for her death. Michael is an American man who worked through an IRL friend of Eden's to make contact with her, offering to help and saying he worked as a fixer and could make her situation with her disapproving parents better. Eden believed him and opened a line of communication with him. Michael convinced her to leave the trans-affirming home she was staying at and move back to the state he lived in and she had previously gone to school in. Through Michael, she met his associate Ellen and a Saudi lawyer named Bader. Or Bader. Bader. I'm going to go with Bader. Michael has run as a Republican political candidate before, and he has sat on the boards of pharmaceutical companies. He's tied to investment banking and equity firms, JP Morgan, as well as the Heritage Foundation. Today, he is the CEO of a company called Special Investigations Limited, a business that claims they do cybersecurity investigations and have global reach. Now, if you... let me just see one thing here. Now, you can he's also published a book on like financial big government. He published a financial thriller, which kind of gives you the idea of what this guy is like. But on top of that, the association he has with the Heritage Foundation really can't be understated, because or his involvement in politics. Okay, Michael Pocolyko was a sitting member of basically he was the district chairman of he was a district chairman for the Republican Party of Virginia for 6 years. 6 years. He was in the Republican apparatus. He ran to be a member of the Virginia state legislature. Okay? On top of that, he was considered by the Heritage Foundation to be one of their leading activists. He was anointed by the Heritage Foundation as a man who they saw as a very respected and very respected leader among a new generation of conservative activists. He is... Did she know this when she chose to go to him? Probably not. He probably didn't talk about being a Republican, like, guy. And frankly, how many people look up someone they just met on Wikipedia? Not many. Okay? And also, if you are already in contact with these people and they know where you are and can out your status as an undocumented immigrant to the authorities to force you to go back to Saudi Arabia, well, that kind of changes the calculus a little bit, doesn't it? You know? Now, let's take a little bit of a deeper look here into some of his activities. Okay, so he primarily works for SI, which is which stands for Special Investigations, which is a limited company, or is also known as Special Investigations Limited, which has been around for about 10 years. And he is also the CEO of Monticello Capital. Yeah, they are among the at that bank. Among the investment bank's most significant investments were its portfolio companies, Advanced Environmental Resources, and Erdevelle Europa, and Erdevelle Europa in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia held one of the biggest investments in the bank that he runs. But on top of that, he is also let's see. He's the managing director and chief executive officer of Monticello Capital. Monticello. Let's see. He also chairs Erdevelle Europa, a global corporation headquartered in Luxembourg that, as a private venture, he formed to build water infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and throughout the Middle East. So, not only that, but he had, like, Saudi Arabia has a significant investment in the bank he runs. Not only that, he chairs one of the other companies that has significant investment in the bank he runs. And is also, like, that company is heavily invested in by Saudi Arabia. So it's God. He's fucking gross. It's more that he has a holding company on top of the other companies underneath. It's dark money. Yeah, no, like, this is like one of those Russian nesting dolls where just companies within companies, and the money all seems to be flowing from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, he claims to care about social justice. Now, like, I'm not saying people can't change, chat. People can obviously change over time. It's just that I somehow doubt that this guy cares about social justice when he literally and deliberately led a trans girl to her death. Now, we also have Ellen Cole, who is an associate of Michael Pocolikos. She met with Eden and Michael in Virginia. Ellen currently is the managing director and partner at SI with Michael, and she previously worked as an office administrator and assistant to Michael at Monticello Capital, a boutique investment bank in Chantilly, Virginia, that is seemingly funded entirely by Saudi Arabia. At SI, she's the managing director. She's a corporate founder and the case manager of SI Limited Company, and is an expert in investigative processes and controls, open source intelligence, and information data systems. She's an investigator and compliance agent. She formerly headed administration at Monticello Capital, was CEO of an information systems professional services corporation, and was executive vice president and chief administrator officer of 2 Washington, D.C. based franchise development firms. And she was educated at St. John's College, Annapolis. And then we get to Bader. Bader Alomer, the fixer number 3, the Saudi lawyer. that Eden talked about. Bader, Saudi national, met with Eden at the train station in Virginia along with Michael and Ellen. He told Eden he was a lawyer and got her an apartment in Washington, D.C. He began to take care of her financially, and over time she realized he was grooming her into detransitioning, plus living in the closet, and she was now an illegal immigrant who was financially dependent on him. Feeling she had no choices, she acquiesced to his demands and changed her physical appearance, along with discontinuing her hormone therapy. She even met with her father and got back in contact with her mother. At this point, Michael and Ellen had ceased all communication with her, and she had an emotional breakdown and repented as she was asked to. Bader then booked a flight back to Saudi Arabia. There's little information provided on Bader past his actions, but we managed to find a man whose name and activity is matched by theirs. Also living and working in D.C., a point of contact man working for the Saudi embassy who was in charge of flights, transportation, and living arrangements for Saudi nationals in the United States to attend college. Bader has also been linked to several Saudi nationals that have been accused of crimes and subsequently fled the country. We also found a LinkedIn profile for a man of this name living and working in Riyadh, the city she is from, with a connection to her father. We do not know for a fact that these are the same person or the person Eden mentioned. We believe it's possible and something of value to look into. This is a quote from a Washington Post article. Titled "Saudi Embassy Has Helped its citizens facing criminal charges flee the United States." When Saudis have found themselves in trouble with U.S. law enforcement, Bader Al-Omer has been one of the first people to hear about it. As a lawyer in the Saudi embassy in Washington at the time Moore was killed, Al-Omer coordinated legal assistance for Saudi citizens in at least 7 states, including North Carolina and Virginia, according to several people who have worked with him. Al-Omer did not respond to emails, text messages, and phone calls seeking comment for this story, and embassy spokespersons did not respond to multiple requests for an interview with him. Al-Omer is not a senior official. People who have worked with him described him as a mid-level bureaucrat who answers to higher authorities, including a more senior lawyer in the embassy, as well as officials responsible for intelligence and national security issues. There would be snippets about him in the press if he's that close to someone who's in with MBS. Well, yep, it does kind of check out, right? And you wouldn't task somebody who's high level in like the Saudi embassy to do this. You'd want like a middleman who's not going to ask questions. Because I'm willing to bet that the reason so many people in Saudi Arabia got involved was because that this is a very prominent family, and they didn't want to bring shame on that family. Which, frankly, trans people to fundamentalist conservatives bring shame upon their families just by existing. Let's see. Here's another quote from the article. But Al-Omer is the working level point man in the Washington embassy. He is chiefly responsible for finding legal representation for Saudi students who need criminal representation. In the States, he oversees one person who has worked with Al-Omer said. Al-Omer was involved in trying to find legal representation for Al-Suhaimi and Hariri after they were initially questioned by police, said a second person who had worked with him. There's no indication the men were ever represented by a lawyer. Al-Omer has also been in charge of procuring airline travel, chauffeured ground transportation, and hotel accommodations for Saudis in the United States, according to an embassy document shared with the Post. In the case of Hussam Al-Aidi, the Redford University student who is charged with violating his probation, Al-Omer instructed a driver working for the embassy to take him to Dulles Airport, this person said. In assisting the Saudis in the United States, including with routine legal matters, Al-Omer has relied on a group of American criminal defense lawyers who specialize in drunk driving and drug possession cases and immigration law. One of them is Edward Moad, an immigration lawyer who has kept offices in Chevy Chase, MD. and McLean, VA, where Al-Amer frequently visited, said several of Mowad's former co-workers who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution by their former boss and the Saudi government. Excuse me. So yeah, this all seems to check out. That hasn't been 100% confirmed, but I would guess that if you're a member of a prominent family in the circle of Mohammed bin Salman, you're going to be able to get some pull in the U.S. Saudi embassy. Both Michael Pocolico and Ellen Cole are operating executives of SI, which explains why they were both able to be tapped to conduct this operation. I don't know. I hope Michael Pocolico and Ellen Cole live every day for the rest of their lives thinking about how they dragged a poor trans girl to her death. I hope that hangs over their heads for the rest of their lives. The document also promises, in the final segment titled "To Come," this will be a segment that will contain private messages from Eden that show for many months she was talking about these people, along with the stress and fear they were putting into her life. We are going to release this document without them, as her death has just been announced and we want to move quickly. Hopefully by the end of the day, this section will be amended and photos added. So again, if any of you want to keep an eye on that, you certainly can. This document, as far as I know, is public and meant to be dispersed to as many people as possible, so that Eden Knight can be remembered and some measure of justice might be able to be obtained. So that's what we got. We got Heritage Foundation activists, conservative activists and ghouls, leading a trans girl to her captors, who then entrapped her with promises of legal immigration status in the United States, and then trapped her with financial dependence into going back to Saudi Arabia, at which point she was then tortured over the period of months until she finally couldn't take it anymore and took her own life. That is the final summary of this story, and it is rage-inducing and sad and terrifying, because this is, frankly, when we get down to it, what every single conservative talking head, when they talk about eradicating transgenderism, when they talk about, oh, we're attacking the idea of being trans, we're not trying to say we should exterminate trans people, that is fundamentally the kind of treatment they want every single transgender person in America to experience. They want to kill us, and I don't know how to reach more people with that message, and I don't know why every day there aren't alarm bells going off in the heads of every conservative that, oh, hey, you know, our party is really trying to murder trans people, all of them, and how that isn't like inspiring countless "are we the baddies" moments. They want to kill us down to every last man, woman, and child, and NB. And you think that it's gonna stop, by the way, when they, even if, okay, for the sake of argument, they killed every last transgender person, do you think they would stop? Do you think they would stop? No! They wouldn't stop. They would just keep killing anyone who doesn't fit whatever arbitrary standard of, like non-trans they come up with. Every femboy, every like every masculine like lesbian, every like anyone who might look vaguely gender non-conforming, even if they are perfectly cisgender, they want to kill those people too. Hey, Real Radham. Yeah, today it's a hard day. This is a hard story, and I don't know what to do about it. uh, Other than share it with you and encourage you all to share it. I know the hashtag that's been going around is hashtag Justice for Eden. Um, Feel free to use it. Um, and I swear to God, if more if more discourse comes out about like hashtag use and that becomes the story here, I'm going to fucking lose my shit. I'm gonna lose my shit so goddamn hard. If I can't take another cycle of that again. 1 second. And like folks, it's not it doesn't even stop there because with the death of Eden Knight, with the murder of Eden Knight, bigots are coming out of the woodwork because it isn't just enough that transgender people suffer and mourn. It isn't enough for them to kill us. They have to gloat about having killed us. Azrael Morningstar, I'd like to say that like they would change their stripes, but frankly, there are enough fundamentalists in this world. There are enough hardcore conservatives in this world that I know that there is a not insignificant chance that if a child started showing gender incongruencies, they would just fucking murder that kid. Okay, like that has happened in the past more than enough times for me to go to that conclusion. Hell, it happened in Eden Knight's case. They fucking kill their kids.